I said that was the other time Detroit had a game canceled was when that. But exactly, people's homes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I kind of got mad at I got into it on some Facebook groups because, not got into it, but I just got a little mad and walked off the conversation. Some people, acting like a football game. And look, we do sports talk. So clearly we put sports on a little bit of a higher level than the average person. But still, there's people say, oh, well, they need to find a way to play this game. Really? They need to find a way to play this game on Sunday? No, because forget about just the football aspect. As we were talking about yesterday, as the governor was saying, you've got police services, you've got other things where the resources are being extended. I don't think people realize how many civic resources it takes to do a football game, how many thousands of police officers are needed for just the average security, traffic, all of that stuff, let alone when you combine weather and the fact that, they're in a state of emergency. I thought, man, it's kind of narrow-minded. I mean, okay, if they don't play it till Tuesday, who cares? If they don't play it till next week, I mean, we have bye weeks all the time. They'll figure out a way to squeeze that football game in, but I couldn't believe some people were taking umbrage to the fact that they were trying not to have this football game. I'm like, really? When did some game between the Jets and the Bills become more important than real life?
Right. Well, after this game, the Bills are actually offering people to come to the stadium and help dig out the stadium and give them free tickets.
I know. They were paying $10 an hour and tickets for the rest of the season or whatever to come and help shovel out because there's no way they can do it. So they've got more time to worry about that now. They don't have to have that stadium. And I'm telling you, they're going to be hard-pressed. They'll get it done, but they're going to be pressed up to the buzzer to get that thing ready for the Browns in 10 days or however long it is. So, because that's the 30th. It's next Sunday. So, they've got 9 days or whatever to get that thing ready, and that's about how long it's going to take to clear that out. And that's assuming that they don't have any more problems along the way with the weather. So I'll tell you who's not going to have problems with the weather, Jeff, the Browns and the Falcons, because they are in the dome. They are free from the elements this weekend, and that's going to bring its own set of circumstances with noise, with speed issues. Guys are always faster. The game plays differently on turf than it does outdoors. So let's start talking about it. I know you've done a lot of work this week looking at the Atlanta Falcons. They have no shortage of offensive weapons to attack the Browns with this weekend.
That's right. They've got a lot going on. In fact, Joe Hayden was saying that this game is going to be a track meet, and it's pretty much the opposite of, Cleveland or Buffalo weather. You're inside the Georgia Dome. You've got the turf, and so everyone's going to be really flying around there. And when you look at the Falcons, they haven't had a great season, but, their passing game is their one big weapon. And with a very accurate passer in Matt Ryan, he's throwing 65%, 17 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions, and really just every team's dream of having two really great receivers. I mean, either one of them, Julio Jones or Roddy White, could be considered a number one on pretty much any other team. And everybody would love to have two of those guys, and that's what the Falcons have. And that's really going to be the most daunting task for the Browns, is to stop those two, pretty much like all of the Falcons' opponents. They're the number 6 passing team in the NFL, and that's going to be the primary thing that they're going to have to stop. It's not going to be easy.
Absolutely, and of course, one of the things that's going to come with that is how many bodies are they going to have there on defense. Speaking, you know what, you just set me up perfectly here. Before let's segue out, talking about that passing attack and all of those weapons. I don't know if you got a chance to hear Jim O'Neill this week as he did his speaking with the media, getting ready for the Falcons here. A couple of things. I mean, number one, both of these guys. I'm telling you guys, if you ever thought that there was just a different breed of mentality coming with these Browns players, it's this week. It's the Dansby and Sheard. And I'm telling you, even if they come close to playing, man, that's some warrior spirit right there, because both of them days ago, the thought was they may not play for a minute, and they're both doing what they can to get in here this weekend. That's going to be but that's going to be part of it, is that. But did you notice what he said? And this is not like it's anything we didn't know, but it's different for the last few regimes, for the Browns coaches to stop BSing around the things that you already know. They always give you these answers that do not make sense compared to what you know is reality. These regimes have been known for that, and you just think you're being insulted. Justin Gilbert. This week, I loved what he said, especially yesterday, when he was as blatant as could be. He's like, do you know why he's not out there? Because he's our number 4. He's the 4th best guy we have. Plain and simple. K1, Buster, and Joe are all better than him, so he's number 4. I mean, to me, that takes gumption in your trust in your regime and your ability to come out and tell, hey, look, we drafted this guy in the first round. I'm not going to pussyfoot around. I'm not telling you he's terrible, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you all these great things about him. He's doing fine. The reason he's not playing is because the other guys are all better than he is, and that's the reality of it. That's where he fits on the totem pole, as he said. And to me, that speaks to the same thing with Pettin, with talking about whether it's Ben Tate, Brian Hoyer, whatever. Whoever's going to play is going to play, and I don't care where we drafted him. I didn't draft him. That's your deal. You worry about that. But I just, that to me was blatantly honest, because there's not many coaching regimes in the last few years that would have said in 10 games into the rookie season, so and so is the he's not playing. He's not as good as this guy. He'd be, well, he's working really hard on this, working hard on that. No, he came right out and said, look, this doesn't have anything to do with that. He's not as good as the other guys yet. He's working to get there, so we're going to play the best 11, and that's all there is to it. I love that breath of fresh air more than anything else from these guys.
Right, and that's, that extends beyond just what he says, to the media and what the coaches say to the media. It just sends a message to the team that, pretty much your contribution on the field is going to matter the most. And, you have a situation where we have 2 first-round picks this year, Johnny Manziel and Justin Gilbert, and they didn't play at all last week. And you know what?
Yep.
That's okay, and that's not undermining the general manager because, these guys are down the road. Hopefully they'll be great football players. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be forced into a position right now, although strangely enough, Gilbert probably is going to get some playing time this week, considering all the weapons that the Falcons like to throw out there. But you're right; it shows a real lack of BS, which we saw earlier with Tate being let go, and just the fact that it doesn't matter about your past reputation; it matters about what you're doing, on the field, and that's good. It just shows that the team seems to be going in the right direction. You get the idea that there are level-headed, rational people running the show.
And I'll tell you what, let me ask you, speaking of that, let me ask you how level-headed and rational you think this statement is. I'm curious, because I was thinking about it last night, and I said, well, he's got a point. He was talking about K'Waun Williams specifically, and he said, you know what, separate him from Justin Gilbert in this conversation, and I think he's better. He's playing at a higher level than any corner drafted this past year. He said, I challenge you to find one. I think you'll have a hard time finding a drafted cornerback who's been playing at a higher level than Williams has. And, I thought about it last night. I said, you can make some cases for guys who are playing equally, but that's a good point. And again, that's another guy uncovered by we talk about this team, like this regime liking to find those undrafted guys, find those unheralded guys, and here comes another one right there. But what do you think about that statement? Would you agree? Would you put him up there with the guys that were taken, some of the other guys that we've compared to Gilbert here, Denard, the various guys that we mentioned in our previews? What would you think about that statement?
Yeah, I would say that definitely. I mean, the fact that he's playing at such a high level, he's made the reason why he's getting these kind of high praise is he's making big plays out there. He's not just he's making himself stand out. He's making impact plays, and that's really a tough thing for cornerbacks. They'll say that quarterbacks and cornerbacks are the biggest learning curve coming into the league, and that's what we've seen from other guys in the past, people like Patrick Peterson, and now he's one of the best. So it's not always instantaneous for cornerbacks to come out and be great. In fact, I can't hardly remember the last time someone came right in as a rookie cornerback and really dominated. I don't know if that has ever happened in recent memory, but yeah. So I mean, the fact that it's really not insulting to Justin Gilbert if he's saying he's playing better than our highest drafted cornerback, but also against everybody else. So it's just really, a good thing to say about Williams, a high compliment for him.
For sure. I like what he said. He said we can't. He makes it impossible for us to keep him off the field. He makes the plays when we need him to in big situations. He makes it hard for us to not have him out there, and that's what you like to hear. But I'll tell you what's funny about those two is it takes the one excuse away, because sometimes a coach would be, and we've heard him do it before. Well, cornerback is a really tough position for a guy to jump into the league at, because you're comparing him to another guy who's making the same transition. So you go, and I get it that everybody's learning curve is different, but look, there's things about Justin Gilbert. I don't want it just to be a complete burial. There is things about his skill set that I like. I didn't like where we took him. I mean, we talked about it before the draft. There were 2 or 3 guys that I liked much more than him there. I mean, I get why they took him. I'm cool with that's the guy we identified, so we went and got him. Like, I'm not going to argue with that part of it, because that's your job. You choose your guys and go get them. So I'm cool with the way you made your decision, but it has to pan out too. It's not just having the gumption to make the choice. The guy has to pan out too. So a lot of time it's early. Like I said, I like parts of his skill set, man, but I guess it's it's a wait and see game with that. There's times you can see, he does have some decent technique. Vashawn in the chat room, good point though. He can't tackle, and that don't get me started. That's one of my pet peeves about the NFL. Absolutely. Yes, I did. Hey, I'll give the Browns an A on the draft. Absolutely. What are we talking about? I'm not talking about either one of the guys in the first round. I think the Browns got an F in the first round of the draft. I just think they got an A everywhere else. They dug out Joel Bitonio. They dug out Kirksey. They dug out Terrence. Not that they had to dig, but they uncovered some guys in these later rounds. I think Pierre Desir next year is going to be a nice piece in the defensive backfield. So, yeah, absolutely. What are you talking about, Bruce? Yeah, I stand behind everything I said. I got no problem with the Browns draft, except for the first round, because they went 0 for 2 in the first round of the draft. Anyways, back to that. Back to the Atlanta Falcons. Go ahead. Pick up where you left off, Mr. Jeff Gorman.
Well, I think, you talk so much about the passing game that you really have to not forget about Steven Jackson and the running attack. Now, the Falcons are really a really weird team. They're 4-6, but yet they're actually in first place because all 4 wins have come in the division. And, they had 5 losses in a row, but they are just coming off a couple of wins. But they were on the road, which is impressive, but then they were against the Bucs and the Panthers. So both of those teams aren't very good. So it's kind of hard to tell just really how good they are. The fact that they're coming at home, they've got a couple of wins, but they were against kind of lousy teams. But, they're building momentum. They're building confidence. So they're going to try to make it 3 in a row against us. Strangely enough, we're trying to avoid our first back-to-back losses of the year, which is really crazy, because it seems like we've had nothing but back-to-back losses since pretty much 1999. But so I think what's really going to be interesting is if the Browns can shut down Steven Jackson, because Jackson, he ran for only 2.5 yards last week, but he ran for 5 yards a carry a couple weeks ago. So it's hard to tell what Steven Jackson are going to see. And what the Browns want to do is they want to bottle him up and really shut down the running game so they can, pretty much force Matt Ryan into having a one-dimensional team and force him to rely on the pass. Of course, it's a very good passing game, but if we can sort of shut the running game down, and then, it might end up being kind of a track meet between us and them.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned Jackson. I don't know what the latest you heard is, too, but I had seen that he was there was some issues with him. I mean, obviously, he's a guy that plays banged up, but I saw that he was questionable. I think he was sick this past week is what it was, but he'll probably end up playing. Yeah, it was an undisclosed illness was what he was listed with on the practice report. And matter of fact, he's not the only one. Julio Jones also missed a couple of days this week of practice. And don't forget Anton Smith. We joke fantasy football wise about him being the hit or miss home run hitter as the backup running back, but he's a key special teams guy for them. He broke his leg. He'll be out as well. But It looks like Jones and Jackson should both be. They've got 2 more days to get themselves fluids and get themselves hydrated and ready to go. They should be good. And I'm with you. Look, I'm one of them guys that's I've always had an appreciation for Steven Jackson. But as you said, he's been, here's the thing. Last time he played was against a Giants defense that is gashable. No doubt, and he did not do very well against them at all. I think he averaged 2.5 yards a carry, 11 yards for his long. But then, as you said, he'll have other games where he's decent. He hasn't been the Steven Jackson of the past here this season.